every time a plane flies out of my window, I used to run to the window and see the plane and hear the engine noise and everything. So at that time, I was like, wow, I wanted to become a pilot. Once I was done with my 12th, I decided to become a pilot, but due to the financial problems and everything, I decided to go on for becoming a civil engineer.
ഹായ് ഓൾ, ഇന്ന് നമ്മളിവിടെ കരിയർ റിലേറ്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള വിശേഷങ്ങൾ സംസാരിക്കാൻ എത്തിയിരിക്കുന്നത് പൈലറ്റ് ചിന്തൻ രാമാണിയാണ്. സാറിന് നമുക്ക് ഈ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂവിലോട്ട് സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യാം. ഹായ് സാർ, വെൽക്കം ടു അറിവ് കരിയർ ടോക്സ്.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. What inspired you to become a pilot?
So basically, in my childhood, when I was living in Mumbai, so I used to live in a place where there used to be a flying club nearby my place. So there used to be aircraft flying over my home each and every day, and every time every time a plane flies out of my window, I used to run to the window and see the plane and hear the engine noise and everything. So at that time, I was like, wow, I wanted to become a pilot. And after that, once I was done with my 12th, I decided to become a pilot. But due to the financial problems and everything, I decided to go on for becoming a civil engineer. But as soon as I was done with my civil engineer, my family was supportive and they were able to arrange the funds for my pilot training. So yeah, so that's the reason. After my engineering, I went for my pilot training.
To become a pilot, is science background necessary?
Science background is not necessary if someone is from commerce or arts background, so they can give an exam from National Institute of Open Schooling, which is NIOS. So the basic eligibility criteria to become a pilot is 10 plus 2 with physics, maths, and English subjects. So you need to have three subjects in your 10th and 12th standards: physics, maths, and English. So if someone is from commerce and arts background, if they don't have maths or physics, they can give the maths and physics exams via NIOS, and once they get the results, once they pass these subjects, then they can go ahead with their pilot training.
Okay. How much cost to become a pilot?
Cost, this is the main factor why many people like scared to go into becoming a pilot, or it takes time to arrange this kind of funds. So there are different pathways to become a pilot. So now if you consider pilot training in India, so for a conventional pilot program, it would be around 45 lakhs to get your commercial pilot license. And after you get your commercial pilot license, you do your type rating, which will be 10 to 12 lakh rupees, and after that airline training 10 to 12 lakh rupees. So the total cost of pilot training from start to end until you reach the airline will be 65 to 70 lakhs rupees if you do your pilot training from India. Now if someone wants to do the pilot training from USA or Australia or New Zealand or Canada, so right now what has happened is the dollar rate has gone up. So the price difference between pilot training in India and abroad is 15 to 20 lakh rupees. So the total cost of CPL abroad would be around 60 to 65 lakh rupees. And once you come back to India, then you go for your type rating, which will be 10 to 12 lakh rupees, and again 10 to 12 lakh rupees for airline training. So the total cost of training outside India would be around 85 to 90 lakh rupees. Okay, this is from start to end until you reach the airline. And there is one more pathway to become a pilot, which is the cadet pilot program. So if someone does the cadet pilot program from India, it is 95 lakh rupees. And if someone does the cadet pilot program from abroad, it is 1 crore 20 lakh rupees. So these are the three different types of pathway one can choose to become a pilot depending on their situation.
What are the key skills required to become a pilot?
The skills required is the basic eligibility criteria. First thing is they should know English, because English is the language of aviation. So each and every communication will take place with the ATC, air traffic controller, is in English. So A clear communication is required between the pilot and ATC. So English language is a must. You should not be knowing like vocabulary rich English or anything. It's just simple basic English in which you can articulate your thoughts into words. That is one thing which is a must. Second thing is maths, physics, English. These three subjects you need to have in 10 plus 2. Then third thing I would say is the medicals. So pilot has to go under a medical examination each and every year, so one has to clear the medicals. And then after that we speak is about the personality. So as a pilot, one has to be disciplined, one has to be rule obeying person. And apart from that, the grooming. So when a pilot goes, like everyone sees pilot, they are up to date, their dress is good, perfectly ironed, they are clean shaved, their hair is up to the point. So personality is there. So that is the personality of a pilot. And another thing is technical knowledge. So whenever you fly a plane, okay, so the knowledge which a pilot should possess, so that should be there. And apart from that, another thing is I would say studying. So if someone wants to become a pilot, he has to study his whole life, because each and every, I would say every year or every 6 months, they have to give certain exams for the aircraft which they are flying. And if there is certain update, they have to study continuously, keep on studying. So flying is fun. Yes, you get a lot of I would say glam along with the pilot life. You go to five-star hotels, you have layovers at different place in the world, but you also have to study your whole life. So that is also a part of pilot training.
Okay. How did you prepare for the pilot training program?
Pilot training program. So basically, if you want to start a pilot training, so first thing which one should do is start with DGCA papers. So DGCA papers are required in order of issuance of commercial pilot license. So I did my ground training from CNTA, that is Captain Neha Thakur's Aviation Academy. So from there, I started studying for my DGCA papers, and then I was under the cadet pilot program. So I did my training, flight training from USA, Florida, and after that I came back to India, and now I'll be going for my type rating to Thailand, and after that I'll be joining the airline in 2 months.
What was the most challenging part of your pilot training program?
The most challenging part of the pilot training is the initial 2 to 3 months when you are learning to fly a plane. So initially there is a lot of things to learn how to fly a plane, and the most difficult phase would be landings, because landing is the one thing which takes time to learn because it is a skills. But once you get used to landing and once you learn the skill, then it is very fun to fly the plane.
Okay. How did you build your flying experience after completing your training program?
I was in the cadet pilot program. So I did like CPL, commercial pilot training from USA, and then directly once I'm done with my training, I'll be with the airline. So our building is not applicable for Indian CPL, because in India there is no rule for ATPL. So when you compare about the requirements of airline in India and abroad, so in India, once you have a CPL, once you are done with the 200 hours, you can join the airline. But if you are doing your training abroad, and if you are citizen, if you are an overseas citizen, then what you can do is you can work as a flight instructor and bill 1500 hours. After that, you get an ATPL, that is airline transport pilot license. So once you get ATPL, after that you can join the airline. So there are many different ways to build hours. One is becoming a flight instructor, doing ferry flights, and one can do rescue flights. Then there is the plane. I don't know what the pilot is called who flies the plane for skydiving. So that is also an option to build ours. So, but the best way is to become a flight instructor.
Okay. What is your favorite aircraft to fly and why?
My favorite aircraft is Airbus A350. It's really a beautiful aircraft. The cockpit is very seamless, very simple. I just love the cockpit. But initially, I'll be flying the A320, Airbus A320. But within a period of time, if I get an opportunity to fly the A350, I'll definitely give it a chance.
What are the biggest misconceptions people have about being a pilot?
So the biggest misconception is that pilots don't do anything. They just sit in the cockpit and autopilot does the job for it. That's not the case. There are a lot of things to take care of. So matter of the fact, pilot feeds the autopilot like what it should do. Okay, and if there is anything wrong with the autopilot, the pilot should take the controls of the aircraft. So that is a very common misconception which people have, that pilots get paid a lot just sitting on the autopilot, but that's not it. There's a lot of things that go behind the autopilot as well.
How do you handle emergencies during a flight?
Emergency, till now I did not have any major emergency, but one time there was a radio failure, but that was just COM 2 radio failure. So there were actually two COMs in the airplane, so one of them was working, so I just diverted back to the base, and I ended the flight. So yeah, that wasn't that emergency, but that was the only abnormal issue I faced till date.
What advice would you give to someone who is considering a pilot as a career?
The best advice I would give is plan your finances before you start your pilot training. So I have a YouTube channel named Winged Engineer, in which I have mentioned the cost of pilot training. I have mentioned the process to become a pilot. So if someone is wants to become a pilot, they should go through that videos. They should plan their finances properly. So I said around 65 to 70 lakh is the money they are looking for if they want to become a pilot training in India. So if you are passionate about flying, if you want to become a pilot, first plan your finances and then start with your DGC exam preparation. And then you can join a flight school. And once you are done with the CPL, you can either become a flight instructor or go for your type rating and then move to the airlines.